I'm Mark Price. I'd like to talk to you today about never giving up. The readings for this Sunday, I think the message, at least for me, is to never give up, especially on our faith, especially on growing closer to God. But first, there were these three pastors. One was an evangelical, one was a Baptist, and one was a Catholic. They died, they went to heaven. St. Peter met them at the gates of heaven and said, "Hey guys, you're early. I wasn't expecting you. So I have to figure out a place to put you." And he says, "The only place I have is hell. So I'm going to send you to hell, but it's just temporary." Let me tell you that this is not theologically accurate, because we are taught theologically, the study of God, that when you die, you go to hell, you don't ever get out. It is permanent, so we don't want to go there. But for purposes of this story, these three pastors are sent to hell temporarily while St. Peter makes room for them there in heaven, makes a place. Well, not long after they get to hell, the devil reaches out to Peter and says, "Hey Peter, we got a problem. I don't like these three guys you just sent me." He says, the Baptist, he keeps trying to save everybody. The Catholic, he keeps forgiving everybody. And the evangelical, well, he's doing a fundraiser to get us an air conditioner. So the readings today, never give up, never give up, never give up. The gospel reading is from St. Luke. The second reading is the second letter of Paul to Timothy. And the first reading is from Exodus. In the first reading today from Exodus, we hear the story of Moses as he's leading the Israelites across the desert. You'll remember they're there for 40 years. They faced many problems. They needed food, they needed drink, and Moses going to God each time God met their needs. Well, at one point they're attacked there, and they're about to have a battle with the Amalek people. And Moses goes to God, and God says, "Well, here's what I want you to do. You let your people go and stand and fight with the Amaleks, and you get on the side of the hill and raise the staff you have," the staff that Moses used to connect with God, to bring about the water from the rocks and all of his things he did connecting with God. He had this staff. And so God says, "I want you to hold the staff up as high as you can there on the side of the hill, and as long as you're holding the staff up, you will win in the battle. But when you drop your arms and the staff comes down, you will start to lose the battle." So Moses is on the side of the hill. His people are down in the valley. They're facing off with the Amalek people, and Moses is holding the staff up. But his arms are getting tired, and he starts to drop his arms. And sure enough, as God said, as soon as those arms were coming down, they started to lose the battle. The Amalek people got the better of them. So Moses pushed it back up. And this is going on for hours. Finally, Aaron and Hur came to help Moses, and they pushed his arms up. Aaron on one side, Hur on the other, holding Moses' hands up in the air so that he could hold that staff. And by the end of the day, many hours, the people of Israel won the battle against the Amalek people. So again, God took care of his people, fulfilled his promise. But what do we learn from that? You don't give up. Moses was tired, he was dropping his arms, and he kept going. And we also realize that when we're faltering in our faith, we should look to our friends, those around us, those other people of faith, to be there to bolster us, to help us out, to encourage us. So the first reading says, never give up, never quit, and it's okay to rely on other people. The second reading, Paul's letter to Timothy, his second letter to Timothy, is a wonderful, wonderful message for us. It's telling us that we should remain faithful to what we have learned and to what we believe. Remain faithful. Now, never give up is important in this reading because Paul is in prison. He knows he's going to die soon. They're going to execute him very soon. And yet he doesn't quit. He doesn't give up. He's still trying to teach Timothy. He's still trying to encourage Timothy. And he's teaching him to remain faithful, to never give up on your faith. Remember the things you learned. Remember the things I taught you. Remain strong in your faith by remaining faithful in your faith. And then in the gospel, we hear the story of the widow who is going before a crooked or an evil judge. and she's presenting her case, and the judge is not making a determination on her case. And she goes back and back and back and back, and finally that judge, he makes a ruling, and it's in her favor. And the story, of course, is about this widow never giving up, going back to this judge again and again to encourage him. And the judge, in an effort to get rid of her and for fear that she might come after him, that's why he made his ruling. So he truly was not a good judge. But the point of the gospel is that we should never give up in going to God. We should never give up on fighting for, standing for those things we believe in. So the message in all three readings is never give up. So ways that we can in our life never give up. First is by being resilient people. And the way we are resilient is we have a strong support team. Just as we saw Aaron and Hur were there for Moses to help him keep his arms up. We have to be positive and realistic in our heads. So when we have an idea in mind, when we have the path we're following in our faith, let's make sure that we remain positive and realistic. You can't have unrealistic. You can have dreams, they may be out of reach but not out of sight, so that we can be people who remain resilient. And we have to be people who have the ability to take control and find solutions. In all that we do, we should be people who are willing in our walk of faith to take charge, not just always rely on other people. So the first step in never quitting is to be resilient. The second is to be determined people, people who have a strong determination. We have a clear goal in mind, and we see that goal. Every day we see that goal. Sometimes people have told me that if their goals they would write on the mirror, so every morning they're up, they're washing their face, brushing their teeth, they see that goal. What is your goal when it comes to faith? Is it to grow closer to God? Is it to grow closer to Jesus? Is it to be a better person? Is it to understand what you are called to do, to discern your path here on this? What is your goal? And we should be people who are determined to find it. And we should have an unwavering focus in our goal. Once we've set our goal, we should be unwavering in it. Now, I remember where I lived for 30 years as an adult was a little town called Alpine. It's in the San Diego County, east part of San Diego County. When I first moved there, they did not have any stoplights. They had a couple stop signs. They had very few sidewalks. They did not have a supermarket. They had a family-owned grocery store, which was great. And people had horses. It was very rural, and I loved it there. In fact, I used to ride my horse, and on a few occasions I actually rode it through the drive-through at one of our 2 or 3 banks that we had. So it's a rural place, and we had a lot of critters. Everyone had dogs. I always had dogs. My neighbors all had dogs. People had cats. And I remember one time I saw a rabbit hopping by, and all of a sudden I saw some dogs that were there. One in particular saw the rabbit and started to chase after it. And he's hooping, he's hollering, he's barking, and the other dogs are hearing it, so they start to chase after the rabbit. And pretty soon you had 8, 9, 10 dogs all running down the road chasing after this rabbit. But pretty soon the dogs began to quit and go home. The first ones to quit were the last ones to join, and then more dogs quit and more dogs quit. Finally, you only had 1 dog left chasing that rabbit. Do you know why you only had 1 dog left? Because he was the only dog that actually saw the rabbit. All the rest just sort of got caught up in the whooping and the hollering and the excitement. So we have to be people who are determined because we have our clear goal, we see our goal. We have to, in our walk of faith, we have to see the rabbit. We have to see God in our life. We have to see Jesus in our life. We have to see the goodness of God. We have the promises of God. And we have to know that they are real and know that they are true. That keeps us determined. That helps us to never give up. So let us be people who make a strong commitment to our faith. Set our goals and never quit, never give up, and make that goal real, and make that goal something that we can stay with every single day. I tell you to pray. I've told you many times to pray. The reading is encouraging us to be persistent in our prayer. Why should we keep praying to God? Is it because God forgets or God doesn't remember or we have to remind God? No, we are called to be persistent in our prayer because it puts us in a place closer to God. The more we connect with God, the more we pray to God, the more we talk to God, we grow in that relationship with God. So to grow in our faith, we need to be persistent. We need to be people who never give up, who never quit. There was a guy who was fishing one day, and he was catching a lot of fish. There were a lot of people watching him, but they were amazed because every time he brought a fish in, he'd measure it. And if it was over 6 inches, he'd throw the fish back. And so he'd catch the fish, he'd measure it, and if it was 6 inches or under, he'd kept it. And if it was over 6 inches, he'd throw it back. People came over to him and said, "Why do you throw your big fish back into the lake? Why don't you keep the big fish?" And he says, "Because my frying pan is only 6 inches." Let us be people who never give up. So if we have a small frying pan, if we have a small dream, a small focus, a small goal, let's just get a bigger frying pan. Because with God, all things are possible. Let's trust God. Let's grow in our faith by never giving up. Never giving up, by being people who are resilient, who are persistent, and who are determined to grow in our love and our relationship with God. Amen? This is Mark Price. Thanks for listening.